Last night, something bizarre happened, and I still don't know how to process it. My hands are still trembling, and I'm terrified that my dogs, or even my family, might get hurt. That's why I'm here, looking for advice on what to do next. It all started around 8 p.m. when my mom's girlfriend called me downstairs. She asked me to help her burn some old boxes cluttering up the kitchen so we could free up some space. We live in a cramped little house, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 5 people. I've got 2 younger sisters. One's 12 and shares a room with me, the other's 10 and usually crashes in the living room. Then there's my mom, her girlfriend, who, let me tell you, is seriously unhinged mentally, and our dogs. Kobe, about 2 years old, Valentine, who's been with us for 6 years, and their 3 puppies. Space is tight, and we could really use the extra room, so I said sure and helped haul the boxes out to the backyard. Our backyard's the biggest in our little neighborhood, unfenced, and one of the few on the block with a shed, identical to our next-door neighbors. Our driveway stretches over to the shed, and since the yard's wide open, the 2 properties kind of blend together. While Mom's girlfriend was breaking down the boxes and setting them ablaze, I'm not allowed to handle the lighter. I hooked Kobe up to his chain to let him do his business. Don't worry, the chain doesn't stretch anywhere near the fire, so he was safe. Valentine, meanwhile, was wandering around the yard. The fire went smoothly at first. We torched 2 or 3 big boxes without any trouble. It was under control, and honestly, we were even enjoying ourselves a bit. But as the flames started dying down, Kobe suddenly went nuts, darting back and forth from the driveway to near where we were, barking like crazy and yanking hard at his chain. He seemed scared, like he was trying to warn us about something. Around the same time, I noticed Valentine growling over by the driveway. I got up and walked over to him to see what was up, smiling and cooing, "What's the matter, buddy?" in that silly baby voice you use with pets. But as I stood there, I got this eerie feeling. You know, the one where you just know you're not alone. It felt like someone was staring right through me. I glanced toward where Valentine was barking, and I instinctively shouted, "Oh my God!" Standing there in the driveway, just a few feet away, was this thing. Even with the light from the back door and the fire nearby, it was pitch black. No features, just a tall, skinny silhouette with bulging eyes that never blinked. It towered over me, easily 7 feet tall, way bigger than the shed. Something about it felt wrong. A voice in my head screamed that this thing was furious and wanted to hurt us. It was like we were locked in a staring contest. I heard Mom's girlfriend call out, "Lila, what's wrong?" I looked away for just a second, and when I turned back, it was gone, like it had never been there. But I could still feel its presence lingering, heavy and oppressive. I told her what I'd seen, and we quickly doused the fire and brought the dogs inside. I ran to Mom and spilled everything, but she tried brushing it off with rational explanations. Maybe a shadow, maybe a trick of the light. None of it added up, though. She must have seen how shaken I was because she tried to comfort me, but her excuses didn't help. I went upstairs to my room with Kobe, trying to shake off that awful vibe the thing left behind, but I couldn't. It stuck with me. I stayed up there, talking to my boyfriend on the phone for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, when Mom called me back downstairs. She and her girlfriend had gotten into a fight, and the girlfriend had locked herself in the bathroom. Mom was cool about it, though, and just asked me to keep an eye on the food while she went to pick up my sisters from their friend's house. I said okay and headed to the kitchen. Barely 2 minutes later, Mom came rushing back inside. I heard her walk into the hallway near the bathroom and call out her girlfriend's name, saying, "There's something standing outside watching the house." My stomach dropped. She finally believed me. The girlfriend came out of the bathroom and admitted she'd seen it too, trying to peek through the windows. She bolted to her room, grabbed a metal bat, and stormed out the back door, screaming at the top of her lungs, "If anybody's out here, I'll bash your damn head in." Mom still had to get my sisters, so I walked her to the car, then darted back inside and grabbed a hammer from the closet. Out of nowhere, Kobe started slamming himself against the back door, barking like a maniac, something he'd never done before. Reluctantly, I put him on his chain outside so he could watch over the girlfriend while she patrolled. Meanwhile, I locked myself in the bathroom. It's one of the only rooms with a working lock, and called my grandma, who was at work. She's big into paranormal stuff, just like me, so she listened to every word and tried to calm me down. I was losing my shit, even though I'm usually pretty level-headed. That uneasy, unsafe feeling wouldn't let go. Just as I started to settle down, the girlfriend burst back into the house, yelling that something had smashed the basement window from the outside. She was scared it had gotten in. I hung up with Grandma after a quick goodbye, kept 911 ready on speed dial, and we searched the house. We didn't find anything. No one, nothing. It was like this thing was toying with us. Mom and the kids got back, and things seemed to calm down, but that creepy feeling lingered, like it was still out there, waiting for the perfect moment. Grandma called me back and said she'd take me to her place for the night since I'm homeschooled, unlike my sisters, and it wouldn't mess up my schedule. She picked me up after work, and on the drive, she told me that while I was telling her everything, the hairs on her arms stood up. She could feel the same negative energy I described, like she knew exactly how wrong and unnatural this thing was. This morning, Mom called and said that after I left, she'd invited some friends over, guys with concealed carry permits, to keep her company. While grabbing something from the kitchen near the back door, she heard Kobe's chain rattling outside and the porch creak, like something heavy shifted on it. Everyone was inside, and Kobe was upstairs with the kids. Lying in bed now, thinking it over, I'm starting to believe this thing was trying to latch onto the dogs. That's why Kobe was so desperate to get outside. He's been sticking close to me since I got home. I'm too freaked out to go outside alone after dark now. I came here hoping someone could offer advice. I've dealt with paranormal stuff my whole life, but this feels different, darker, scarier. If anyone knows what I should do, please reach out or comment. I'm desperate to protect my family. Oh, and one more thing, my mom's girlfriend went hiking today, and her texts don't sound like her. I think something's seriously wrong. Please, I need help figuring this out. My girlfriend Thea decided to go hiking today, and now I'm sitting here freaking out because I think something's terribly wrong. I should have gone with her, but she always hikes alone. She says I slow her down. Normally, she's back in about 2 hours, but it's been nearly 4 now, and I'm seriously considering calling the police. She should have been home ages ago. I've tried calling her over and over, but she doesn't pick up. All I've got are our texts from today, and the more I read them, the more I feel like something's off. It started at 2:33 p.m. I texted her, "Seen anything cool yet?" She replied, "Nope, I'll send you pics when I get to the waterfall though." Then at 2:57 p.m., she asked, "You're cooking dinner tonight, right?" I said, "Yep, chicken pot pie." Yum. She shot back, so excited. After that, we didn't text for about an hour. I was killing time, messing around with pylons in StarCraft. When she texted again at 4:06 p.m., I found the waterfall. Below it was a selfie, her standing in front of a small waterfall, smiling at the camera, arms crossed, cap shading her wild hair, those turquoise earrings I gave her for our first anniversary glinting in the light. I texted back, "You're cute," but then I stopped. Something about the photo bugged me. I stared at her smiling face, blue eyes under the cap, black curls brushing her shoulders, and it hit me her arms were crossed. She couldn't have taken that picture herself. Someone else had to have snapped it, or maybe she propped her phone up on a rock or a tree, but there was no way she was holding it. I fired off another text. "Who took that photo?" No reply. She'd answer my other messages quick enough, so I left the phone on my desk and went downstairs to start prepping dinner. I tried pushing the creeping anxiety away, focusing on chopping onions, maybe a little too carefully. Call me paranoid, but my last girlfriend cheated on me and left me a wreck. Knowing someone else took that photo, plus her not answering, made my stomach twist. Come on, I told myself, she probably just asked a random hiker to snap it. Clunk. My knife sliced through the onion, hitting the cutting board hard. But what if? 45 minutes later, I went back upstairs and saw she texted at 4:53 p.m., thinking of you, with a heart emoji. I frowned. First, she didn't answer my question. Second, Thea doesn't usually send emojis, GIF, sure, but not this. It was weird. And one heart? She usually sends me at least 3. That's more my thing. I replied, thinking of you too. Did you get my last text? She wrote back, I'll be back by dinner time, with another heart emoji. I decided to let it slide. Okay, I love you. I texted, tossing in a heart of my own. I unpaused StarCraft and played for a bit until my phone pinged again. At 5:37 p.m., she texted, I'm on my way back, with another selfie. This time, she was holding the phone. I could see her outstretched arm at the bottom of the frame. She was in a clearer part of the forest, probably near the trailhead. I breathed a sigh of relief and started typing. Awesome pot pies already. But my fingers froze. In the photo, just at the edge, there was something in the falling leaves, a shadow, cast by someone off screen, just a few feet from her. It's after 6 o'clock now. Dinner's cold. I've been sitting here, heart pounding, calling Thea non-stop, nothing. Then, as I was typing this up, one last text came in. We're gonna be home late, sorry. I love you. I'm damn sure she didn't send that one. Thea never came home Saturday night. A lot of you told me to go look for her myself, so that's what I did after calling the police. I headed to the trail alone. Well, not totally alone. I brought our little dog, Gizmo, thinking he might pick up her scent or something. When I pulled into the parking lot, my heart sank. There was her car, that beat-up Honda Civic, parked crooked under a street lamp. She was still here, but she wouldn't leave it like that. Not on purpose. It was already pretty dark, and with coyotes around, she's not dumb enough to keep hiking past sunset, right? I tried the car door locked. I shined my phone's flashlight through the windows. She wasn't inside, and nothing looked out of place, though it's hard to tell with how messy her car always is. The dread in my gut grew heavier. I grabbed Gizmo and started toward the trail. The woods were pitch black. The thick trees choked out what little light was left in the sky. I glanced at the sign to figure out which way the waterfall was, then kept going. Thea, I called. Thea. No answer. I looked at Gizmo. He wasn't picking up anything. I tried calling her again, straight to voicemail. All I had was that last text staring back at me. We're going to be home late, sorry. I love you. As a last-ditch effort, I sent one back at 8:23 p.m. How late? Where are you? I've been calling you. I watched the message go from sent to delivered to read. My blood ran cold. My fingers flew over the keys, starting to type. Where are you? Please call me. But I stopped. If it wasn't Thea texting, if someone had her, maybe that wasn't smart. I stood there in the woods, heart hammering, as Gizmo whimpered at my feet. Then I typed, that's fine if you want to stay out late, but I'm going to bed. I love you. Good night. 3 little dots popped up, then a reply. No, you're not. I stared at it, head spinning. What the hell does that mean? Gizmo pawed the ground a few feet away, and another text came in. You're out here looking for me. I hear you calling my name. Why don't you come a little closer? With a winky face. I grabbed Gizmo and bolted, tripping over roots and rocks. The trail sloped up, then down. Out of breath, I stopped, shining my flashlight around. Thea. I screamed, straining to hear anything. A rustle, a footstep, something. Nothing. I sent another text. Where is Thea? Then I heard it. That little chime I'd heard all over the house for 2 years whenever Thea got a message. Her phone was out there, somewhere in the dark. I ran toward the sound, but as I stepped off the trail, the ground dropped into a steep slope covered in dry leaves. 10 steps in, I hit a jagged rock, twisted my ankle, and crashed down hard. A rustle came from my left, then a branch snapped. I dragged myself up, pain shooting through my leg, and waved my phone's light around. Gnarled trunks, yellowed leaves, Gizmo barking from the trail. Nothing else. I texted again. Tell me. I listened. No chime, no steps, no rustling. Just silence, broken by Gizmo's barks. The police showed up soon after. I told them everything, showed them the text, pointed out where I'd heard her phone. They didn't find her, but in the parking lot, they found something I'd missed, a turquoise earring. I didn't sleep that night. I drove around town for hours, looking for anything suspicious, asking late-night partiers if they'd seen her. I kept calling the police for updates. Nothing. Then, as the sun rose, my phone pinged. To my shock, it was Thea at 6:42 a.m. I'll see you soon, with a selfie. But this one was different. Dark, grainy, the forest all grays and shadows, maybe taken just after sunset or before dawn. She was leaning against a tree, arms limp, hair wild, cap pulled so low her eyes were hidden. Looking at it made me want to puke. I sent it to the police right away, but they haven't done anything with it yet. I thought they could track a phone's location, but either they can't or they won't tell me. One thing I haven't told them, tonight, after nearly 48 hours without Thea, after my useless search in the woods, after all the police did, I got one final text at 12:01 a.m. Are you going to come find me? I think it's time to head back to the woods. You guys were right. Going into the woods was a bad idea. When I wrote that, I'd had maybe 2 hours of sleep and 5 cups of coffee. I wasn't thinking straight. That last text was a trap, sent by whoever took Thea. I handed everything over to the police, even that final message. They tracked her phone's cell tower, but it covers most of the park. Useless. I put together a small search party to comb the town, posted all over social media. Nothing came up. Wednesday passed with no texts, no leads, no word from the police. Thursday dragged on, and with every hour, I lost a little more hope. I kept forcing myself to study those 3 photos she sent, looking for clues, but they just made me sick. Then Friday hit. I started the day like usual, checked the social media groups for updates, made coffee, was about to call the police when my phone rang. The caller ID said, "Thea." I snatched it up, heart pounding. "Thea?" I asked. Silence. "Thea, tell me where you are, please." More silence. "If this is who took Thea, please, I'll do anything. Don't hurt her. I'll pay ransom, whatever you want. Just don't hurt her." No one spoke, but I heard something faint crackling, like static or wind through the speaker. "Please say something." My legs shook, my mind raced. Can't the police trace this? Do I need to keep them on for a minute? I had no clue. "Do you want money?" I said, voice trembling as I opened my laptop. "We don't have much, but I'll wire it all right now. Please, just give Thea back." The crackling got louder. Then the call dropped. I called the police immediately, begged them to trace it, but they gave me the same canned response they'd been feeding me for days. So I got in my car and drove. I didn't even know where I was going, but I ended up in that parking lot, staring at those dark trees and winding trail. I was debating whether to go in when I saw it, a plume of dark smoke rising over the treetops. I jumped out and ran into the forest, that awful crackling sound echoing in my head. "Thea, no, no." I climbed over rocks and sticks, following the acrid smell of smoke. "Please don't let it be." The fire was in a small clearing, orange flames licking the air, black smoke billowing up. Thea's remains were found in it. God calling them remains. How can you say that about someone you love? It's so cold, so horrible. Thea, my amazing Thea, is gone. Since I got the news, I've been sitting in the kitchen, downing whiskey, flipping through photos of us from happier days. One from the boardwalk, her grinning, holding a stuffed teddy bear, me standing stiffly beside her. I remember that trip, how annoyed I was she wanted to play every game in 90-degree heat. What a jackass I was. Every minute with Thea was a gift. Another photo, a selfie of us on the couch, her beaming as she held up the bowl of pasta we'd made from scratch. My thumb hit the screen as I went to flip to the next one, but I stopped. Something was in it. Behind us, through the front windows, I could see the neighbor's lights, a car passing by, and something else. I zoomed in. The quality was grainy, all blues and grays, but there it was, a figure crouched between our bushes, looking inside. I flipped to the next photo, us on the floor a week earlier, playing with Gizmo. Zooming into the window, that same awful shape was crouched just outside the halo of our back porch light. The next one, unknown, silent, peeking through an uncovered corner of our bedroom window. No. I flipped again. Oh God, no. Thea in the laundry room, balancing a basket on her head, sticking her tongue out at me, but behind her, inside the house, a sliver of darkness poked out from the corner. Not a shadow, someone standing there. Yep. I jumped as Gizmo let out a shrill yelp from the family room. I scrambled over and found him sitting by the window, staring into the dark, shaking like crazy. I stumbled to the front door, clicked the deadbolt shut, then cupped my hands over the window and peered out. Nothing. I ran through the house, locking every door, every window, closing curtains, even sliding the lock on the basement door. When I was sure it was secure, I collapsed on the couch and started dialing the police. They'll be here soon. I'll tell them everything, how this bastard who killed Thea has been stalking us for months. They'll find him, and we'll make damn sure he gets the worst sentence possible. Thea will get justice. It's finally over. Or maybe it's just beginning. Okay, so to start, I'm Jake, and I live in Mesa, Arizona, basically a suburb of Phoenix since the main cities here just sprawl into each other with no real borders. I've changed my name for this, obviously. I'm in an apartment complex that's close to the rougher side of town, but still decent enough. It's a one-bedroom, one-bath place I share with my girlfriend. Arizona's got a ton of ancient Native American history. I live right next to the Hohokam Canal, like a lot of people around here do. This whole area used to be full of their old cities. Point is, I'm in prime territory for what I'm pretty sure was a skinwalker. Here's what happened. Yesterday, I was drinking, something I picked up during the COVID-19 quarantine when things got strict around here, and decided to smoke a bowl on my apartment patio. I don't usually do that, mind you. I just finished packing my pipe and took my first hit when I heard a voice nearby. "Amanda, open the door, please." It was a young woman's voice, maybe in her 20s, calm and kind of teasing. I kept going as I tried to ignore it, focusing on smoking the last of my stash. After it repeated the same exact line about 4 times, my curiosity got the better of me, and I started looking for where it was coming from. I spotted it in the apartment building across from mine. There was a dog standing on its hind legs, leaning against a door and tapping at it. At first, I just shrugged it off weird, but whatever. Then I heard the voice again. "Amanda, open the door, please." And it sounded exactly the same as before, like someone had recorded it and hit replay. No other sounds, no movement in the complex, just that. I watched this thing knock on Amanda's door for maybe 30 seconds, stuck in this mix of shock and curiosity. Then it stopped, stood still for about 20 seconds, and suddenly straightened up fully on its hind legs. It turned, looked right at me, and made eye contact. That's freaky enough, considering I'm on the 3rd floor and it was on the 2nd, at least 50 yards away, but I felt it staring into me. I held its gaze, scared out of my mind, feeling like I should run or scream or something. Then it dropped to all 4s and started heading down the stairs, slow and deliberate, coming my way. My heart was pounding. I was ready to bolt inside or yell. I don't even know, but I had to see what this thing was going to do. It got closer to my balcony, still looking like a dog, a scruffy, brownish-yellow one with big, unblinking eyes locked on mine. It didn't feel natural, though. Nothing stood out as obviously wrong at a glance, except those eyes that wouldn't quit staring. As it reached the bottom of my stairs, I panicked and ran inside, locking the door behind me. Pretty soon, I heard claws scratching at my door. Doggy claws, no doubt about it. Then the handle jiggled, like it was trying to get in. It moved to the front porch door next, same deal. I didn't dare open it. Instead, I hid behind my kitchen counter with a knife, waiting it out. After about 30 minutes, the noises stopped, and it was gone. I stayed up all night, too freaked out to sleep, but I didn't see it again. I didn't step outside either. I'm hoping it doesn't come back. I haven't gone out at night since, and I've been burning sage, trying to be as careful as I can. This whole thing has me rattled. Whatever that thing was, it didn't feel right, like it wasn't just some stray dog. I'm stuck wondering if it'll show up again, and I'm damn sure not taking any chances. I've been a biologist since I was 22. My name's Mark, and I grew up on a farm in rural Illinois, so nature's always been second home to me. As a kid, I'd spend hours playing in the woods, my way of keeping busy. People assume I'd have wild tales about Bigfoot or creepy noises or stumbling across some odd shrine out there, but no. The weirdest thing I ever ran into back then was a bobcat screeching. It sounds just like a woman's dying scream. And yeah, to anyone who's sworn they heard a skinwalker or a goat man howling in the woods at night, I bet my life it was just a bobcat. The truth is usually pretty mundane and underwhelming. You'd think that'd make me bored of the outdoors, but I never lost my love for it. Nature's predictable, and that's why I like it. You know what you're getting. So after college, I turned studying it into my full-time gig. I work as a biologist for the Sierra Club, specializing in Midwestern ecosystems, fish, birds, deer, elk, bears, wolves, you name it. I spent weeks at a time in fire towers, cabins, and campsites, always miles from civilization, collecting data on wildlife, checking for pollutants, figuring out if the ecosystem's holding steady or if something's throwing it off. It's not glamorous, but I enjoy it. Nature had never thrown me a curveball until my last assignment. I was sent to a cabin in the Ozarks, alone, for a 3-week stint in May. The Sierra Club had noticed a slow drop in the local elk population over the past decade, nothing drastic, but enough to raise an eyebrow. My job was to count the wildlife, test for pollutants, the usual stuff. I got there in the evening, early May, and the first 2 nights were normal, nothing out of the ordinary. The forest sounded like it should, crickets chirping, owls hooting, the occasional elk call. May's mating season for them, so they're out looking for love, which makes them easier to spot. Elk mating's pretty straightforward. The female calls, waits for a male to show up, and it's usually first come, first served, if you catch my drift. Love was definitely in the air, and with all the calling, you'd think I'd see some elk. But by the second day, I hadn't spotted a single one. The third night, I was lying in bed, restless. Something felt off, but I couldn't pin it down. I was about to doze off when a female elk call cut through the silence, the second one that night. I sighed thinking, what, are the guys having a night off or something? Then it clicked. I shot upright in bed. For 3 nights straight, I'd heard nothing but female mating calls. Those should have brought every male within half a mile running. Elk aren't subtle. When a male finds a female, the whole forest knows about it. I sat there, staring into the dark, wondering why, after 3 nights of her calls, I hadn't heard any action. The next day, I hit the trails again, looking for any sign of elk. What I found wasn't good. About a quarter mile from the cabin, I was checking a path when I saw something 30 feet into the woods, a big, brown, fuzzy lump in the brush. I grinned. An elk taking a nap, maybe? I pulled out my binoculars for a closer look. It was an elk, all right, but my smile vanished when I saw it wasn't moving. I carry a hunting rifle for safety, so I readied it and approached cautiously. From a distance, it looked fine, but when I got to its front, I nearly dropped my gun. It was a damn mess, gutted completely. What was left of its insides dangled out of its chest, ribs pried apart, huge claw marks raking its side. Its head was barely hanging on by a few threads of flesh. I gagged, almost losing my breakfast. It was awful. I took a minute to pull myself together. This was the first time nature had ever blindsided me. What could have done this? I've studied wildlife for years. This was a bull elk in its prime, 9 feet tall when standing, a king of the forest. No predator on this continent could take down a healthy bull like that, pack or no pack. Even a grizzly would think twice, and bears are mostly scavengers anyway. My mind raced. Maybe it was sick, caught off guard by a predator. But those claw marks were bigger than a grizzly's, and the ribs, no four-legged animal could have split them like that. You'd need arms. A chill hit me. A human could have done it, but why? Hunters would have taken the hide or head for a trophy. Was some psycho out here butchering animals for kicks? Even then, those claw marks didn't add up. This had to be reported. I was there to investigate the elk decline, and this was definitely connected. I grabbed my camera and started snapping photos, documenting the horror from every angle. It was gut-wrenching. The elk's eyes were wide with terror when it died. I lined up one last shot, and as the shutter clicked, I caught a faint sound, a twig snapping behind me. I whipped around, realizing too late I'd been so shaken I'd missed something critical. The kill was fresh. No decay yet. This elk had been dead less than half a day. Whatever did this could still be close. I dropped the camera to my neck, snatched up my rifle, and pointed it toward the noise. Idiot, I muttered to myself. I backed toward the trail, rifle still up. The hike back to the cabin was the only time I've ever felt scared in the woods. Trees boxed me in, no visibility. I jumped at every rustle, checking behind me every few seconds. I felt like prey, never knowing where the threat might strike. I didn't relax until I was inside with the door locked. I spent the rest of the day holed up, rattled, reviewing the photos and sending them to my supervisors. They'd take a day or two to reply, so my plan was to investigate by daylight with my rifle ready. That night, my last of the cabin, I was getting ready for bed when I heard another female elk call, the first that day, and close, too close. Wildlife steer clear of buildings. They smell like fire, metal, and gas, all unnatural to them. Why was this elk so near? I peeked out the window into the dark forest. No sign of her, probably past the tree line. I grabbed my rifle, not to shoot her, but maybe fire a few rounds in the air to scare her off. It'd be nice to know elk were breeding normally, but I didn't need a front row seat. I unlocked the door, stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, and scanned the trees. Then I saw it. A pair of antlers poked out from behind a tree, followed by an elk's head turning right toward me. A buck probably drawn by the female's call. Promising, but all the more reason to shoo them off. I raised my rifle to the sky, ready to fire. That's when the elk's head flew through the air. It arced toward me and landed just feet from the door. I stood there stunned, trying to process it. Something or someone had been holding that head and chucked it at me. I nearly pissed myself. I swung my rifle toward the tree where it came from. The cabin's light barely reached that far. Were my eyes messing with me? Did I just see claws or teeth around the trunk? I froze. I needed to reach behind me to open the door, but I was too scared to turn my back or take a hand off the rifle. After a few seconds, I braced it against my shoulder, finger on the trigger, and groped with my left hand until I found the knob. Thank God it hadn't locked behind me. I pushed it open, pulled my hand back to the rifle, and backed inside fast, slamming and locking the door. I rushed to the windows, drawing blinds and checking locks, keeping my rifle close. The terror of approaching each window, not knowing if something would be staring back, was unbearable. Nothing was there, which was almost worse. I grabbed the satellite phone and called the sheriff's office at the mountain's base. When they picked up, I felt a wave of relief. "You need to get up here," I begged. "Who is this?" It was the deputy. I met him and the sheriff before starting my stay. "It's me, Mark, the guy at the cabin on a mountain." "Oh, sorry, what's the problem?" "There's someone up here screwing with me. Get up here now." "Whoa, slow down. You mean like kids or something?" "No, it's not damn kids." Someone just threw a decapitated elk head at my cabin. In my panic, I'd stuck to someone instead of something. I didn't want him thinking I was drunk or nuts. I just needed help. What do they look like? How many? Did they have guns? I have no damn idea. They killed an elk, cut its head off, and threw it at me. Just get up here. Oh shit, okay. Lock yourself in, we're on the way. Stay on the line. I'm scared here, I admitted, shaking. I can't get to you, and stay on the phone, he said. I'm calling the sheriff now, we're coming. Lock yourself in and stay put. He hung up. I was alone again. Another female elk call rang out, even closer, like it was right outside. I gripped my rifle tighter. Then the tapping started. While I was on the phone, I hadn't washed the windows. A single gray claw was tapping the right edge of the one by the front door. Just one claw, the thing attached to it was staying out of sight. My eyes widened. It stopped tapping and dragged the claw along the glass, then out of view, leaving a long, ugly scratch. The sound was awful, but it didn't stop. It kept going along the cabin's wooden walls. This thing was clawing through solid wood. Could it break the windows? Why hadn't it? My knees shook as I tracked the sound with my rifle. Could it get in? How long until the sheriff arrived? It's a 45-minute drive up the mountain. Even if they hauled ass, it'd be half an hour. Could they even stop this thing? Should I run for my truck? No, it'd get me before I could start it. Then it hit me. The bull elk I'd found earlier had a scar on its right cheek. I checked the head outside, same scar. This thing was taunting me. It must have been there when I found the body, watching me, and now it threw the head to mess with me. Was it telling me to leave its territory? I gasped, barely noticing the scratching had stopped. Where was it? I scanned the windows, no sign, until a loud thud hit the roof. It was up there. Footsteps echoed through the cabin, each one followed by rhythmic claw taps. Was it testing for weak spots, or just playing with me? It had only been a few minutes since I called, still far from safe. The shock started fading. Focus, I told myself. It had seen me through the window. It knew where I was. The bathroom was safest. No windows. If it broke in, it'd have to find me, then break the door. That might buy me time. It was still thudding overhead. I slipped off my shoes, keeping my rifle aimed at the ceiling, and kicked one toward the bed. Sure enough, the thuds followed, stopping above where it landed. It was tracking me. I shuffled to the bathroom, barely lifting my feet, praying the door wouldn't creak. I was shutting myself in, hoping I wouldn't die there, when a loud scratch and a thud hit outside. It had jumped off the roof. Why was it leaving? Then I heard a woman scream. I covered my mouth, gasping. How? No one else was here. Hiker, maybe? Help, she cried again. I gripped my rifle, tears welling up, frozen. That thing was chasing some poor woman, and I was too cowardly to help. I just wanted to hide, hoping every second it spent on her got me closer to the sheriff. I don't know how long I cowered there. Another scream. Help me. She sounded more terrified than I was, and I just sat there, letting her die. Shame overtook my fear. I tightened my grip and left the bathroom, marching to the door. Maybe I could distract it, give her a chance, even if it got me. As I reached for the knob, she screamed again, a dying wail. I was too late. She moaned in pain, just meters from the door, her final moments. I listened, safe inside, as she groaned again. But this time, it sounded off. My eyes widened. I pulled my hand back like the knob burned me. I hadn't unlocked it, thank God. The moan came again, not pain or fear, but something else. You bastard, I muttered. You almost got me. It clicked. There was no female elk. Mimicry's common in nature, for prey and predators. This thing used female elk calls to lure males, then tore them apart. That's why I never heard mating. And now it was trying the same on me, first with a woman's screams, then switching to its elk trick when that failed. The moans grew louder, building to a sick climax. I aimed my rifle at the door, nauseated, picturing this thing squatting out there, faking a woman's voice to draw me into the dark and rip me apart like that elk. I stood firm, resolved to stay put until sunrise or the sheriff arrived. And if I saw it, I'd shoot. I don't know how long I waited amid those twisted echoes. Eventually, the moans faded, leaving silence, until a tapping returned, same spot as before. That gray claw was back, then a second, then a third, drumming on the glass. A patch of gray first slid into view, then its face full, like a sloth, but caked in blood. Tiny, predatory eyes, bat-like ears, cracked lips. It stared at me, cocked its head, and grinned, showing razor-sharp teeth still stained with flesh. I'll never forget that smile. Shoot, shoot, I told myself, but I was paralyzed. Light flooded the front window. It vanished. The sheriff and deputy pulled up, sauntering to the porch and knocking. I shook off my stupor and opened the door. They jumped back, drawing guns, yelling at me to drop mine. I must have looked crazed. Only their scared expression stopped me from firing. What the hell's going on? They demanded. I could barely speak, just stammered they needed to get inside. It was still out there. They half dragged me to their truck, saying I was like an owl, head swiveling, scanning the trees. I must have passed out. I woke up the next morning in a cell, confused and terrified until it all rushed back. They sat me down and asked what happened. I didn't know where to start. If I told the truth, they'd think I was insane. They asked about the elk head. It was gone when they arrived, just a bloody stain left. I lied, said some kids were messing around, making noises to scare me, and I called because I thought I saw a gun. The sheriff bought it after one run-through. He took me back the next day to grab my stuff. In daylight, of course. Deep scratch marks scarred the cabin's side. Kids, he said, not looking at me. We grabbed my gear fast and headed down the mountain. I told my supervisors over hunting was likely behind the elk decline. They'd never believe the real story. As I waited for the bus home, the sheriff shook my hand and pulled me into a half-hug. "Don't come back," he whispered, gripping my shoulder. I gave him a puzzled look. He stared into my eyes. "It knows you now, your scent, your face, your voice. You got away once. It won't happen again. So don't ever come back." That was years ago. I burned the clothes from that trip. Nothing's dragging me near the Ozarks again. I tell anyone who asks to steer clear. I've tried so hard to forget that night, but that face, every detail haunts me. What was it? A mutant? Something supernatural? An alien? Those bat-like ears, perfect for picking up elk calls it learned to mimic. How did it know a woman's voice? I dread the answer. When I sleep, I dream of campers by a fire, hearing a voice. My voice, calling for help, luring them into the dark, away from safety. I wake up shaking. Back in my 20s, I was what you'd call an adventure junkie. My name's Sarah, and about 10 years ago, something happened that changed all that. I ditched the wildlife, moved to the city, got a dull job in a plain apartment, and swore off the outdoors for good. I haven't told many people about it. Only my wife now because, one, they think I'm nuts, and two, I don't like dredging it up. But I'm finally spilling it here because you all deserve to know. You probably saved my life. After college, I moved from Texas to Alaska chasing, you guessed it, adventure. I had a job I loved, decent pay, and enough vacation time to get out and do something crazy every now and then. One thing on my bucket list since moving north was driving the Dalton Highway. For those who don't know, it's a rough road stretching from Fairbanks to Prudhoe Bay on the Arctic Ocean, about 500 miles, an 11-hour drive in summer. Work kept me busy, so I couldn't hit it until early autumn. By then, snow had started, but the plows kept the highway mostly clear. I was driving a '95 Toyota Land Cruiser, tricked out for expeditions. I was prepared. Camping gear, emergency supplies, a satellite phone, plenty of food and water, extra gas in jerry cans, and a .45 pistol, Sam Colt's finest, in the center console, just in case. I freaking love that gun. My plan was to make the trip in 2 days, sleeping in the back of the Land Cruiser halfway. I packed enough blankets to stay warm and set up a cozy spot back there. The snow meant slower driving, but I wanted to soak in the scenery, and the sun was setting early that time of year. I'd made good time that day, and when things went sideways, it had been dark for about an hour. I was hitting the foothills of the Brooks Range. Gorgeous views, tough terrain, I didn't want to tackle at night. I was just about ready to pull over when I saw caution flashers up ahead. For anyone who doesn't know, in Alaska, you always stop for someone in trouble on a remote road like that, especially after snow hits. If they're not ready for an emergency, you might be the only thing keeping them alive. So I pulled up next to a Nissan SUV, not as kitted out as mine, but not bad. Looked like they were doing the same trek as me, small world. A jack was under one axle, and a wheel sat beside it. They'd blown a tire. But I didn't see any people. I stepped out, boots crunching into the snow, and looked around. Not many trees that far north, just patches of evergreens, dark and thick on a snowy night like this. "Hey," I called. "Y'all need help?" No answer, just dead silence, except for the faint click of the flashers from inside their car. I shouted again. "Anybody there? I've got tools." Still nothing. Just that eerie quiet. I consider myself pretty gutsy back then, but I'll admit I was creeped out. The car hadn't been there long, and no one was around. The silence and darkness didn't help. It wasn't unusual for a snowy night up there, but it still gave me the chills. Creepy enough that I hopped back in my rig, grabbed my .45, and tucked it into a big pocket on my jacket. Bears roam up there. I figured that was the worst I'd run into, probably. I walked up to the Nissan and spotted footprints in the snow. Okay, not a ghost car. One set had crouched by the blown tire. Another had stood a couple feet away by the rear. The second set had wandered toward the tree line, stopped a few yards out, paced, then kept going into the woods. The tire set had later gotten up and run after the first. Easy to tell in snow. Now I was really uneasy. I almost turned back to drive off, but like I said, this could have been life or death. Plus, I had my .45. It could handle a grizzly, probably. So I followed the tracks into the woods. It was pitch black, but don't worry, I had a killer flashlight, a Surefire. Adventure girl, remember? The silence got even heavier past the tree line, like sound does in snowy woods. My breath and boots crunching were the only things keeping me sane. "Hey," I called, maybe 20 yards in. "Is everyone okay?" This time, I got a reply, a woman's voice scared. "Over here," she called. "Help." I picked up my pace, jogging toward it, shining my light through the trees to catch a glimpse. "Over here," she called again, much closer. "Help. Here's where you all probably saved my life." I stopped dead. The hairs on my neck stood up, and a chill ran through me. Something was wrong with that voice. I couldn't place it, but it didn't sound right. I aimed my light where I'd heard it. "Are you hurt?" I asked, raising my voice but not quite yelling anymore. "Help," it called back even closer, no footsteps though. My grip tightened on the flashlight, heart pounding. This wasn't normal. I'd read a ton of spooky stories back then. No Sleep podcast, you name it. I didn't buy into that stuff, but this felt way too familiar, and it was setting off every alarm bell in my head. Something about this screamed danger. I tried once more. "What's your name?" I asked, cautious now. "Help," the voice replied, just a few yards off. That was it for me. I swapped my flashlight to my left hand, pulled out the .45 with my right, and pointed both toward the sound. Finally, I caught something in the beam, not just trees. Off in the distance, barely visible, was a bundle in the snow, human-sized, surrounded by dark stained snow. My brain was still processing that it was a body when I saw movement between me and it. Oh shit, that was a body. I swung my light and gun toward the motion. It was humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, but all wrong. Too tall, limbs too long, thin, wispy hair, and antlers, damn antlers. Its face, also very wrong. was smeared with what had to be blood. I fired 2 shots and ran like hell. I don't know if I hit it or slowed it down. I didn't care. I sprinted faster than I ever had, heart ready to burst, lungs burning from the icy air. I nearly ate it a couple times, slipping in the snow, but I stayed up. Branches cracked and snow crunched behind me. It was chasing me. Then I heard more snapping, more crunching, not just behind but all around. There were others. I got damn lucky that night. Lucky I saw the body. Lucky I ran fast enough without face planting. Lucky those things weren't just a bit quicker. Lucky I dabbled in enough creepy tales to know something was off. And lucky that poor couple in the Nissan had gotten stranded and met their grisly end. If I'd stopped where I'd planned, right near those flashers, I'd have been sleeping in those woods. I made it to my car. Lucky again that I'd left it running, thinking I wouldn't go far. I dove in, slammed and locked the door, and threw it into reverse. Dark, lanky shapes emerged from the trees as I peeled out. The headlights caught them, 6 at least, stretched and pale, almost white, with antlers and ragged, primitive clothes. I backed down the road as fast as I dared without crashing, about half a mile, before I turned around and forwarded to Fairbanks. I didn't stop until I hit a bright, busy hotel in the city. The next day, I drove back to Anchorage, packed my stuff, quit my job, broke my lease, and bolted to Texas. No cops ever came knocking, so I guess I dodged that bullet. My casings and tire tracks must have stayed unlinked to me. I still have nightmares about those twisted, elongated things chasing me. I probably have PTSD, but it's not like I can tell a therapist without getting locked up. I'm not an adventure girl anymore. I don't go out at night, and I stick to the city. I didn't escape unscathed, but I got out alive, more than those folks in a Nissan can say. I was lucky.